Welcome to California in Focus. This is your host, Kenneth Strapp, here today with Madeline Shannon, our California reporter. Shannon has been reporting on Prop 50, which is the California ballot measure to temporarily, at least, suspend the Citizens Independent Redistricting Commission as approved by voters under the Schwarzenegger governorship back in the day. Tell us more about what Prop 50 was, what it really overturned, what's happening.
Yes, Kenneth. So Prop 50 is Governor Gavin Newsom's response to the state of Texas's own redistricting effort earlier this year. Texas did their own redistricting effort in an attempt to pick up five new seats in Congress for Republican congressional members of Congress. And so Governor Newsom wanted to respond to that by doing California's own mid-decade redistricting effort, which is meant to allow congressional Democrats to pick up five new seats in the 2026 midterm elections next year. A lot of Republicans have been pushing back against Governor Newsom's Prop 50 effort because they say that it unfairly advantages Democrats and it takes power away from the state's independent redistricting commission, which voters approved in the early 2000s and allowed to redraw congressional districts after the census every decade. But now that power is being taken away from the Citizens Redistricting Commission here in California, and new maps have been drawn for all the congressional districts, and those maps will be in effect for next year's midterm elections, as well as the 2028 general election and the 2030 elections as well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if there are any changes that would happen as a result of maybe they redo the census the next few years. There were some undercounts of some states, overcounts of others. There's been a lot of domestic migration that's projected to result in the loss of many seats for California and gains for states like Texas and Florida, where a lot of Californians have moved. And under this situation, would it seem like this redistricting commission would, under the governor, they would probably still have control through 2030? And does it seem like this is really temporary? Is there any such thing as a temporary change to something like this?
Yeah, and that's kind of what Prop 50 is meant to do. It's really just temporary. And the maps drawn by the Citizens Redistricting Commission that were in effect until now, those will that redistricting commission will have power to redraw the congressional districts after 2030, after the next census.
Okay. You also covered some Republicans' responses to this. In this map that we saw, there were some Republicans who were put into these new majority, very Democrat-leaning districts. Some very interesting gerrymanders that we've seen. I believe the Princeton gerrymandering project has said this is one of the worst gerrymanders they've seen. They think they gave it an F rating. What are some Republican responses to the shaping of these maps and how they divide communities?
Well, a lot of Republican congressmen who have been elected already and who stand to lose their seats in the 2026 midterm elections released statements on Tuesday and Wednesday this week after results started rolling in from the Prop 50 election. A lot of them have said that they're disappointed in the results, that the state constitution lost out to a pile of money and shameful deception, and that the election unfairly advantaged Democrats. Um, there is at least one congressman who announced that he is going to run again in 2026 in the newly drawn district that he represents still, but might not after next year's election. And that is U.S. Representative Ken Calvert. He is a Republican from Riverside County. And he said on Tuesday that he would run again in the newly drawn 40th district.
There's some other concerns that something like 40% of Californians voted for Donald Trump, but under these new maps, Republicans would hold something like, what, 10% of seats. And does that it does seem that there was an ask that proportional representation be reduced in order to save democracy. Does that sound like the argument that was being made?
Yes, it does. And that's exactly the argument that Governor Newsom has been making. He thinks that Governor Greg Abbott of Texas bowed to pressure from the Trump administration to redraw Texas's congressional districts to allow Republicans to pick up 5 new seats in next year's election. And this was Newsom's effort to, as he says, um, balance the powers between the Republican and Democratic Party to be able to elect an equal number of members to Congress next year. So that is the argument Democrats have adopted. Yes.
It's interesting that you hear this put into a national perspective, especially in the context of how Newsom has now said that he is considering running for president or is really putting his hat in the race. Can you tell us more about how his presidential campaign has seemed to have heated up at the same time Prop 50's campaigning was happening?
Yes, and it is interesting that Prop 50 is happening really right as Newsom admitted that he is thinking about running. He hasn't made a final decision yet, so he says. But we do think that Prop 50 is this flashy initiative that gets Governor Newsom national attention and allows him to have a little bit of brand notoriety, brand recognition in his name across the country, and allow voters all over the country to get to know who he is and that he's not just the governor of California, he's not just a Democratic governor, but that he is someone who's positioning himself to be a Democratic frontrunner in the lead up to the 2028 election. So Prop 50 really is and seems to be his latest effort to draw a lot of attention to what California is doing, draw a lot of attention to himself so that he's able to position himself to announce a run in 2028.
Right. It really seems like this state focused effort with Prop 50 gained a lot more national attention than his effort to sort of nationalize an issue under his name. I think it was about a year ago that he tried to call for a new constitutional convention to pass a quote unquote gun safety constitutional amendment. And there were a lot of Democrats within the state of California who don't want to have a convention of states because there are really no rules governing what can be changed in the Constitution. But that measure, it did not really gain as much attention, I think, as he would have liked. But it's ironic to see that his state level ballot measure is what really has solidified his image as a leading 2028 contender.
Exactly. And there aren't a lot of other Democratic contenders nationwide who are attracting this kind of attention right now. Maybe Kamala Harris is the only other one, but in terms of other Democratic governors across the country, Democratic congressmen, there aren't a whole lot of other people who are putting themselves out there in quite the way that he is himself.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, Madeline, thank you for your time today on this. We'll be back with this and more at thecentersquare.com.